Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Daily English Podcast. This is not just a podcast. This is a voice that walks with you across generations, across time. You are not too late. You are not forgotten, and your voice still matters. Take a breath, press play, and walk with us word by word, because today we begin a journey through time, a journey through us. Do you know your generation? From Gen X to Gen Alpha, what shaped you? What did you carry, and what are you leaving behind? Let's go back to the ones who came before smartphones, before Wi-Fi, before even color TV. They were called the silent generation. Born between 1928 and 1945. Quiet, strong, shaped by war and ration books. They didn't post about their pain. They just kept going. Then came the baby boomers minus 1946 to 1964. They were raised on hope after war. They believed in hard work, steady jobs, and the power of a strong voice. Some built empires. Others built homes filled with family dinners and tough love. Next came Generation X, 1965 to 1980. The in-betweeners, not digital, not fully analog. Raised on cassette tapes, working parents, and the idea that independence is survival. They don't ask for applause. They just get things done. Then came the Millennials, 1981 to 1996. Dreamers, doers, and digital natives. They grew up with dial-up internet and economic crashes. They were told to follow their dreams, then blamed when the system fell apart. But they still believe in something better after them. We meet Gen Z, 1997 to 2012. Born into screens, trends, and change. They talk about mental health, climate, and justice. They're bold, and they carry both anxiety and awareness in the same heart. They don't want to fit in. They want to feel real. And finally, there's Generation Alpha, born 2013 and beyond. The children of iPads and AI. The future is already in their hands. But what will they do with it? That depends on us, the voices they hear today. Now, take another breath, because today we begin. We begin where the world shifted, quietly but powerfully. We begin with the generation that connects it all. Not loud, not flashy, but unforgettable. Let's start with Generation X, the bridge between two worlds. If you were born between 1965 and 1980, they call you Generation X. But names don't hold your full story, because your story, it's quieter, stronger. It's one the world often skips, but can no longer ignore. You were born between the cracks. Not quite the old world, not yet the new one. You played outside until the streetlights came on. You drank water from the hose. You fixed your own bike. And when something broke, you figured it out. No tutorials. No Google, just instinct, grit, and trial and error. You were the first generation to grow up with nothing digital, and then adapt to everything digital. You went from vinyl records to mixtapes to CDs to MP3 South to Spotify. You wrote essays on typewriters. And now, you help your kids reset the Wi-Fi router. You were the first to hear. Be independent. Don't cry, grow up. And so, you did. You didn't wait to be told. You didn't ask for attention. You didn't make a scene. You just did what had to be done. And for a long time, that was enough. But deep down, many of you still carry something. A quiet ache, a longing, tiredness that has no words. Because being the bridge between two worlds means you are always holding both sides, and no one ever stopped to ask, how are you really doing? Let's pause right here. Breathe in. Hold, exhale slowly. Now say this with me. I was strong in silence. But now, I allow myself to speak. You grew up in a time when feelings were not discussed. You didn't hear the word anxiety. You didn't know what trauma meant. You were just told, shake it off, push through, be grateful. And you were. You are. But somewhere along the way, you forgot how to feel things fully. You became the parent who didn't want to repeat what hurt you, but didn't always know how to do it differently. You became the manager who understood both the boss above and the team below, but never quite felt understood yourself. You became the friend who listened more than you spoke. You became the one who didn't quit, but secretly longed for rest. Repeat after me. I carried more than anyone saw. And I'm still here. And that matters. You are not invisible. You are the glue that held it all together. You raised children while caring for parents. You navigated a world that changed overnight. Technology, culture, expectations. You learned how to email and parent and Zoom and comfort and sacrifice without a manual. You adapted. You adjusted. You absorbed. And now you deserve to exhale. You're not behind. You're the ones who never stopped moving forward, even when no one was watching. Let me tell you a story. A Gen X woman once said, "I'm always the one people lean on, but I don't know who I'm allowed to lean on." She wasn't asking for pity. Who was asking for space, the space to be seen, to be human, not just helpful. You are the generation that taught us responsibility, but now you're learning to receive rest, to allow softness, to explore joy without guilt, because survival was the first chapter. But now you're allowed to live. Let's breathe that in. Inhale, hold, exhale now, repeat. I was born strong, but I'm allowed to be soft now. I don't have to hold it all. Safe to let go. Parenting in the pause, teaching what was. Never taught you became a parent in a different world. You didn't grow up with screens, but now you raise children who carry them in their pockets. You didn't have therapy, but now you encourage your kids to speak their feelings. You didn't. Here, I'm proud of you, often. But you say it to your child every chance you get. You are doing something powerful. You are parenting without a map. There's no blueprint for raising children in a digital age when your own childhood had rotary phones and cassette tapes. There's no easy guide to breaking generational patterns while still healing your own wounds. But you're doing it, and that counts for everything. You're the first to say, I didn't learn this growing up, but I'm learning it now. And I'm going to teach it forward. That is legacy. That is love. Not loud, not posted, but lived. You still flinch when your child says, I'm anxious. Not because you're disappointed, but because no one ever gave you those words. So you hold space for them in the way you wish someone held space for you. That is healing across time. Let's pause here. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now say this softly. I am not failing. I am rewriting. I am raising a future I was never given, but always dreamed of. You are raising children in a noisy world, while still learning how to hear your own voice again. You teach patience. Even when you're tired, you teach love. Even when you weren't always shown it, you teach freedom, while still untangling yourself from old fears. That is not small work. That is soul work. Repeat after me. I teach by presence, not perfection. I heal by loving forward. I grow while guiding. And I am enough, even as I learn. You don't need to be a perfect parent. You just need to be an honest one. One who says, I don't know yet. Let's figure it out together. It's okay to cry. I'm sorry, I love you, always. That's not weakness. That's wisdom in action. Let me tell you about a Gen X dad. Quiet, hardworking, always dependable. One day, his daughter said, Dad, you'd never say I love you. He paused, then replied, I say it every time I show up. Every lunch I pack. every time I come home." She smiled, but that moment stayed with him. The next morning, he texted her, "I love you." No punctuation, no emojis, just those words. And for him, that was a beginning. You see, Gen X doesn't always speak first, but you show up. And now, you're learning how to speak your heart too. It's never too late. Breathe with me, in, out. Now repeat, "I don't carry guilt for what I didn't know. I carry pride for what I'm learning now, and I walk forward with grace." The silent weight, letting go of what you were told to hold you. Learned early how to be responsible, to take care of yourself, to take care of others, to show up. Even when no one showed up for you, you were told to be tough, so you were. You were told not to complain, so you didn't. You were told to figure it out, so you did, over and over again, but no one asked. Who's taking care of you? You've been holding the weight of everyone else's peace, family, colleagues, children, partners. You've been the one people go to when they're falling apart. The one who never seems to break. But the truth, you've broken many times. You just did it quietly, because that's what Gen X was taught. If it hurts, hide it. If you're tired, push through. If you need help, pretend you don't. But that story, it's no longer yours to keep. Let's take a breath for the years you held it in, for the pain you minimized, for the strength no one noticed. Breathe in and out now. Say this with me. I carried it all, and I no longer need to. It's safe to set it down. You've earned rest. You've earned softness. You've earned the right to say, "I'm tired. I need a break. I matter too." That doesn't erase your strength. It proves it, because real strength isn't about holding everything. It's about knowing when to let go. You've been strong for everyone else, but now it's time to be gentle with yourself. You deserve mornings that aren't rushed. You deserve evenings that don't feel like recovery. You deserve to feel peace, not just provide it. Let me tell you about a Gen X man. He was always the rock. At work, at home, in every group. One day he collapsed, not physically, but emotionally. He said, "I've spent 40 years being okay for everyone else, and I don't know how to be okay." For me, that was the beginning of his healing, not because he changed overnight, but because he finally stopped hiding his exhaustion. Repeat after me. It's not selfish to rest. It's responsible. It's not weakness to feel. It's wisdom. You're not just the generation that held things together. You're the generation that can finally let yourself be held by peace, by support, by truth, by people who see the weight you've carried and love you not because you carry it, but because of who you are underneath it. Let's breathe one last time for this section. In, out. Now, say it slowly. I've done enough. I am enough. I release the pressure, and I return to myself. The legacy of Gen X quiet power, real impact. You may not see your story in headlines. You may not hear it in songs. You may not find it trending, but that doesn't mean your story didn't matter. Because while others were talking, you were doing. You raised children. You helped parents. You paid bills. You worked overtime. You kept families together. You held hands without posting it. You kept going without being asked. You were the bridge. And bridges, they don't ask to be noticed. They simply hold the weight, so others can pass through. But let me say this clearly. You deserve more than silence. You deserve to be seen, to be honored, to be thanked, to be loved out loud. Let's pause one more time for the younger you who never got a chance to speak, and the older you is finally learning how to breathe in, breathe out. Now say this with me. My story matters, even if it was quiet, even if it wasn't celebrated, even if I never asked for credit. You are Gen X, the ones who watch the world shift, and still stood tall. You understand both silence and speed. You carry analog wisdom and digital resilience. You know how to survive. But now, you're learning how to feel, and that's your next evolution. Your legacy will not just be in what you built, it will be in how you stayed. How you kept showing up, how you chose compassion. In a world that didn't always show it to you, your legacy will live in the children you raised with more softness, in the teams you led with more empathy, in the partners you loved with more patience, in the way you said, "This stops with me." I won't pass down the pain. I'll pass down peace instead. That is the power of Gen X. Quiet, steady, deep, unshakable. Repeat after me. I am part of history, not because I shouted, but because I stayed. Because I showed up. Because I loved through pressure. And chose peace anyway. Take one final breath. In, out. And if it feels right, say this. I'm not just a bridge. I am a whole world of wisdom. And it's finally safe for me to rest in who I am. My voice still matters. And my time is not over. I'm just getting started in a new way. You are Gen X. We see you. We thank you. We walk with you always. Burnout and the myth of success. You were told you had to be something great. You were told to go to school, get good grades, go to university, then everything would fall into place. They told you if you just work hard, the world will reward you. But for many millennials, it didn't. You graduated some with honors, some with hope. But you entered a job market that was already broken. You applied, you waited. You tried, and most of the time, you were ignored. Your first job wasn't a dream. It was a reminder that dreams are expensive, and rent is due. You worked late hours for low pay. You said yes to every task, not because you wanted to, but because you didn't want to lose your spot. You smiled when you were exhausted. You thanked your boss when you were overwhelmed. You called yourself lucky to have a job, even when it was quietly draining your spirit. You took calls during dinner. You answered emails at midnight. You said I'm fine even when your body said I'm not. That's not laziness. That's burnout in disguise. Let me ask you something. When did we start confusing exhaustion with success? When did 80-hour work weeks become a badge of honor? When did being busy become the way we prove our worth? You didn't ask for burnout. You were handed it, gift-trapped in a culture that praised overwork. And the saddest part, you thought it was your fault. But let me tell you the truth. Burnout doesn't mean you're weak. It means you are carrying more than anyone saw. It means you are trying, really trying, in a system that rewarded silence over sanity. So if no one told you yet today, you did your best. You were strong. And you're allowed to rest. Repeat after me. I don't need to break myself to prove I'm valuable. I am allowed to rest, to reset, to rebuild. I am not a machine. I am a living, breathing human being. Now let's talk about your second job, the one where the pay was better, but the pressure was worse. You were working remotely now. Sounded like freedom, but the lines between work and home disappeared. Your kitchen table became your office. Your bedroom became your boardroom. You woke up, checked Slack, answered emails, all before brushing your teeth. And you began to wonder, where did you go? You were working from home. You weren't resting at home. And the scariest part, you forgot how to stop, you see. Millennials were the first generation to build their personal brand while hiding their personal pain. You were the first to tweet through grief, to post selfies during burnout, to smile in the photo while crying off camera. You became experts at appearing okay because that's what the world expected. But deep down, you wanted more than likes. You wanted peace. You wanted to breathe. You wanted to feel real again. And the pressure wasn't just from work. It came from everywhere, scroll after scroll. Perfect lives, perfect bodies, perfect houses, perfect morning routines. But that wasn't real. It was a highlight reel. And you were living a real life. With bills, with breakups, with anxiety. With dreams, you compared your daily chaos to someone else's. Edited calm, and you forgot how strong you really are. Let's pause here for a moment. Breathe in and out. Now say this with me. I am not behind. I am not broken. I am healing. And I am enough as I am. Let me share a story. I remember someone, a millennial in her early 30s, who had done everything right. She graduated with honors, got a good job, bought her first condo, even got promoted. On the outside, it looked like success. But one day, she told me, I cried in the elevator every morning, but I still showed up. I thought that's what strong people do. I looked her in the eye and said, no, that's what tired people do when no one's listening. That moment changed her. Not because she quit her job the next day, but because she finally allowed herself to feel. She stopped numbing. She started healing. She began to dream again, but this time on her terms. So let me ask you, my friend, what would happen if you stopped chasing what broke you? What would happen if you built a life that fits you, not just your resume? You're allowed to want soft mornings. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to choose peace over pressure, because maybe success isn't what you were taught. Maybe success is this: waking up, not dreading your day, having time for coffee without panic, feeling safe in your own body, laughing at something real, being okay with not being okay, and still showing up with love. That's not small. That's everything. Let's breathe again and say it together. I don't owe the world my burnout. I owe myself my life, and I am slowly learning how to live it again. Social media, the illusion of connection. You wake up. You check your phone before your eyes even adjust to the light. You're already looking at other people's lives, vacations, proposals, perfect kitchens, happy babies, flawless skin, and for a moment, you forget everything you've done right, because someone else's filtered moment feels bigger than your whole day. You weren't born with a phone in your hand, but you grew up with it close enough to shape your mind. Millennials didn't just use social media. You invented the way it's used. You were the first to post, to like, to comment, to create. But somewhere along the way, you started to compare. You started to scroll not for joy, but to measure your worth. They never told you this part, that too much connection can become disconnection. Disconnection from your own voice, from your own wins, from your own enoughness. See? Social media was meant to share stories, but it became a place to curate perfection. You watched people travel the world. While you were just trying to pay rent, you saw engagement rings. While trying to heal from heartbreak, you saw success stories, while doubting your own steps. And in that silence between images, you started to wonder, what's wrong with me? But let me tell you the truth. Nothing is wrong. With you, you were comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You were measuring your reality against someone else's performance, and that is not fair to your journey, to your growth, to your heart. Let's pause here and say this together out loud or in your mind. I am not too late. I am not less. I am real, and that is enough. You are allowed to unplug. You are allowed to delete an app without deleting your social life. You are allowed to choose what you consume and how it makes you feel. Because not every screen brings you joy. Not every scroll is good for your soul. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is look away. Let me tell you a story. There was a young millennial man I met once. He told me, I used to open Instagram to relax. But after 5 minutes, I always felt worse about myself. Everyone seemed ahead of me, happier, more complete. I didn't even notice I was getting anxious until I stopped. And what did he do? He took a break. For 2 weeks, no social media. At first, it felt weird, like something was missing. But then, something else appeared. Silence, clarity, relief. He said it was the first time in years. He could hear his own thoughts again. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by what you see online, you're not alone, and you're not weak for needing space. You're wise. You're wise enough to know that real confidence isn't built from likes. It's built from listening to yourself. Repeat after me. I don't need everyone to see me. I just need to see myself. I am not defined by algorithms. I am defined by who I am when no one's watching. You can follow fewer people. You can mute who drains you. You can log out, not to escape, but to come back home, to yourself. Because your peace is worth protecting. Because your mind is not a billboard. It's a garden, and it needs light, not noise. So next time you scroll, ask yourself, is this helping me grow or forget who I am? And if the answer feels heavy, put the phone down. Look outside. Look within. Look around at the life you're already building. Quietly, honestly, beautifully. That's real. Breathe with me, in, out. Say it with me. I don't chase perfect. I choose peace. I don't need to impress. I need to be true. And today, I come back to me from self-doubt to self-trust. One win at a time. Let's talk about something we often overlook. Small wins, not the kind you post, not the kind that not the kind that too wise, not the kind that goes viral, but the kind that keeps you going. Waking up on a hard day and still showing up. Answering one more email when you felt like giving up, cooking dinner instead of ordering out, smiling, even when your heart was tired. These are not small things. These are proof of your strength. But when you're raised in a world that celebrates only big milestones, you start to ignore the quiet victories. You begin to believe that if it's not loud, doesn't count. But the truth is, it's most of. Your growth happens in silence. There was a woman I met once, mid-30s, soft-spoken, tired eyes. She said to me, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Everyone around me seems to be moving ahead, and I'm just stuck. So I asked her, what did you do today? She said, I got out of bed, made tea, took a shower, and I finally answered that job application I'd been avoiding. And I said, that's not being stuck. That's movement through resistance. She smiled a real smile for the first time in weeks, because someone finally saw her effort. You see, this generation, Millennials, has carried more weight than most people know. Emotional weight, financial weight, cultural pressure, digital pressure, self-inflicted pressure. And yet, you're still here, still growing, still trying to figure it out. That matters. Let's pause. Right here and say this together. I honor the effort no one sees. I celebrate the quiet wins. I trust the slow progress. And I'm allowed to be proud even if I'm still becoming so many millennials. We're taught to doubt themselves, to wait for permission, to ask for approval, to measure their worth in performance. But healing starts when you realize you are already enough, not when you're promoted, not when you're married, not when your life looks perfect. Enough right now, because who you are in your ordinary, unfiltered, everyday moments, it's worthy of love and respect. Let me tell you about someone else. A young man, 35, used to work in marketing. He was burnt out. He was anxious. He felt fake every day, selling something he didn't believe in. One night, he wrote in his journal, I'm not sure who I am anymore. But I know this version of me isn't the one I want to keep becoming. He didn't quit his job the next. Day he didn't suddenly find his dream, but he started drawing again, just 10 minutes a night, like he used to before all the noise. 6 months later, he launched a small online shop. He called it Quiet Wins. Now he sells art that encourages people to be gentle with themselves. He didn't need to become famous. He just needed to become himself. You don't have to throw everything away. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to take one step, then another, then another. The path to self-trust is not paved in clarity. It's paved in consistency. Repeat after me. I don't need to see the whole picture. I just need to take the next right step. I believe in my direction, even when it's still quiet. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need you to believe in you. So go ahead. Apply for that thing. Start that small idea. Take that tiny break. Write that message. Forgive that mistake. It's not about doing more. It's about doing it with heart. And that heart, yours, is more powerful than you realize. Breathe in and out. Now, say it with me. I am no longer waiting to feel ready. I begin now. I begin. Small. And that is enough. Emotional intelligence, the healing generation millennials, are not just the burnt-out generation. You are the healing generation, the first to say, I don't want to repeat what hurt me. I want to understand myself. I want to break the cycle. You brought therapy into conversation. You gave language to feelings your parents never spoke about. You turned pain into awareness, confusion into curiosity, and silence into emotional clarity. You weren't raised to name your feelings. You were told to be strong, to move on, to not make a scene. But as you grew, you realized something wasn't right. You started asking the hard questions. Why do I always feel anxious even when things are going well? Why do I people please until I disappear? Why do I feel guilty when I rest? And instead of ignoring the answers, you went looking for them. You picked up self-help books in quiet bookstores. You listened to podcasts that sounded like therapy. You journaled in the dark when no one was watching. You cried in your car and called it healing, and it was, because you didn't run from your emotions. You sat with them, even when they scared you. You were the first in your family to say, this pattern ends with me. Let me say this clearly. That's not weakness. That's courage. The kind of courage that rewrites stories. The kind of courage that builds new futures, not just for you, but for everyone after you. Repeat after me. I am not broken. I am breaking through. I am not dramatic. I am discovering. I am not weak for feeling deeply. I am wise enough to feel. Millennials. Normalized words like boundaries, inner child, anxiety, energy drain, healing, gaslighting, trauma, self-love. Words that once felt foreign, but now help people feel seen. You are not just surviving anymore. You are learning how to live fully, and that takes a different kind of strength. You started asking, how do I want to feel in my relationships? What do I really want from work? What does peace mean to me? How do I treat myself when no one's watching? These are not small questions. These are the questions that change lives, and every time you answered honestly, you came closer to your truth. Let me share one story. A woman once said, my parents never talked about emotions. But now, I tell my daughter, you can cry. It's safe. I'm still here. Do you know what that means? That means a whole family history changed because one millennial decided to heal. That's the power of this generation, not in loud protests, but in quiet revolutions, in conversations around the dinner table, in how you talk to your children, in how you talk to yourself. You are not just healing for you. You are healing for everyone who came before you and everyone who comes after. And that is legacy. That is power. That is why you matter. Say this with me. I don't need to pretend I'm okay. I just need to be honest. I can rest. I can cry. I can grow. And I can change the world one healed heart at a time. Take a breath. You are not soft. You are strong in a new way. The world didn't teach you how to love yourself. You had to teach it to yourself, and you're doing a beautiful job. Keep going, redefining success. Choosing meaning over money for a long time, success meant one thing. Money, a big house, a fancy car, a job title that impressed strangers, but something in you never felt right chasing that, because deep down you knew. What's the point of making six figures if you cry in the parking lot every morning? What's the point of owning things if you can't remember how to feel joy? What's the point of being admired if you don't even recognize yourself anymore? Millennials were told that the dream life was the one with the highest salary and the longest resume. But now, you're building a different kind of life, a slower one, a softer one, a life that makes room for meaning. You started to question the hustle. Is this job making me better or just busier? Do I really need more or do I just need peace? What would life feel like if I stopped chasing and started choosing? You traded luxury for freedom. You chose simplicity over status. You started asking, what makes me feel alive? And that question changed everything. You moved out of cities to be closer to nature. You started remote jobs. Not to be lazy, but to finally breathe. You left the cubicle to find your creativity again. You opened small businesses with big hearts. You traveled light, not to escape, but to finally explore. And no, it wasn't always easy. But it was yours. That's the difference. You weren't living someone else's life anymore. You were writing your own definition of success. Repeat after me. I am not here to impress. I am here to express. Success is not what I have. It's how I feel when I wake up. There was a time you were praised for being busy. Now, you feel proud when you rest without guilt. There was a time you posted highlights for others to admire. Oh, you capture moments just for yourself. There was a time you thought burnout meant you were working hard. Now you know burnout means it's time to stop and listen. You've grown, not just in age, but in awareness. You no longer measure your life by what you can show. You measure it by what you can feel. A walk in the sun, a deep breath on a Monday, laughing with a friend, loving without rushing, working with purpose, not pressure. These are the things that matter now, and they're not small. They're sacred. Let me share this story. A millennial man, once a financial analyst, told me this. I used to track every cent I earned. Now I track how I feel, and my life is richer than ever. He didn't stop working. He just stopped working against himself. He started choosing jobs that let him sleep at night, projects that gave him energy, clients that respected his time, and that changed everything. Millennials are not running from success. You're just running toward a new kind of success, one that includes your health, your heart, your joy, because what's the point of success if you can't feel good inside it? Take a breath. You've come so far. Say this with me. I define success in my own way. I release old expectations. I choose peace, purpose, and presence. And that is more than enough. Keep going. You are not behind. You're building something timeless, something real, something yours. Legacy. What will this generation be remembered for? Every generation leaves a mark, a feeling, a legacy. Some leave wars behind, some leave inventions, some leave stories. But this generation, millennials, you're leaving something different. You're leaving a new way to be human. You questioned everything you were taught. You broke the chains of perfection. You stopped pretending and started healing. You made therapy normal. You made softness powerful. You made peace. The new goal, you will not be remembered for your burnout. You'll be remembered for how you rose from it. You will not be remembered for your anxiety. You'll be remembered for how you gave it a name and gave others permission to speak their truth. You will not be remembered for quitting. You'll be remembered for choosing something better. Millennials are not lost. You are simply finding new paths, the kind no one ever showed you. And you're walking those paths anyway, step by step. Heart first. Let me remind you of this. You were never lazy. You were tired of being invisible. You were never entitled. You just wanted to live with meaning. You were never broken. You were breaking through. Repeat after me. I am not my mistakes. I am my recovery. I am not my fear. I am my courage to continue. I am not stuck. I am becoming. Your children will one day ask, what was it like being a millennial? And you will smile. Because you'll remember both the heaviness and the light. You'll remember crying on the bus and laughing with your friends in a tiny apartment where no one had money, but everyone had heart. You'll remember starting over and over and over until it finally felt like home. You'll remember loving deeply, failing loudly, and standing up again with softness in your voice and strength in your eyes. You'll say, we didn't have it easy, but we made it honest, we made it real, and we gave the next generation something better to begin with. That's your legacy, not perfection, but progress, not power, but presence, not applause, but authenticity. Let's take one last breath. Together, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Say this with me, softly, boldly, from the center of your heart. I am proud of the life I'm building. I am gentle with who I've been. I am hopeful for who I'm becoming. I am not behind. I am exactly where I'm meant to be. And my voice still matters. Always, you are a millennial, and your story is far from over. Thank you for surviving, for healing, for continuing. We'll walk together into the next chapter with your wisdom still echoing in every step we take. Gen Z, the bold hearts in a noisy world. You were born between 1997 and 2012. The world calls you Gen Z, but you are more than a label. You are a heartbeat in the digital age. A soul that grew up with search bars instead of silence. You were born into noise feeds, trends, updates, notifications, reminders. You didn't download the internet. You were born inside it. You never knew a world without Wi-Fi, without social media, without cameras in every corner of your life. And yet, you are searching for something real. You are bold. You speak up. You call out injustice. You question everything. But deep down, you're also tired, anxious, overstimulated, exhausted from trying to keep up with a world that never stops spinning. You grew up connected to everything, but sometimes you feel disconnected from yourself. Let's pause here. Breathe in and out. Say this with me. I am more than what I post. I am more than how I look. I am allowed to rest. And I am allowed to feel. You're the generation that taught the world to listen. You made mental health a conversation. You said therapy without shame. You said no when the pressure felt too heavy. You said, this isn't working for me. You stood up to systems. You stood up to parents. You even stood up to your own doubt. You taught us that feeling deeply is not weakness. It's wisdom. But let's be honest. It's not easy being Gen Z. You wake up with 10 open tabs in your mind. You scroll through news, jokes, pain, beauty, and pressure, all in 1 minute. You compare. You curate. You wonder, am I doing enough? Enough. And in between all of that, you're just trying to feel okay. You want to change the world, but some days you just want to feel safe inside your own body. You want to be strong, but you're tired of pretending. You want to be seen, but not judged. You want to feel everything, but not all at once. Let me remind you of something simple. You are allowed to pause, to disconnect, to feel confused, to take a break. You don't have to have it all together. You're still growing, still learning, still becoming, and that's beautiful. Repeat after me. I don't need to rush. I don't need to know everything yet. I am allowed to be in process, and I am already worthy. You live in a time where everything is public, but your healing, that can be private. Your goals, they can be quiet. Your self-love doesn't need likes. You are not a brand. You are a human being, and you don't need to go viral to feel valuable. Let me tell you a story. A young woman, 22, said to me, I feel like I'm failing at life because I'm not as successful as people my age online. I asked her, but are you being kind to yourself today? Are you taking care of your body? Are you growing even if no one sees it? She looked down, thought for a moment, and then whispered, yes, I think I am. And I told her that's not failure. That's quiet success. So if you've ever felt behind, let me say this clearly. You are not behind. You are human, and your pace is perfect. You don't need to build an empire at 22. You don't need to have it figured out at 25. You don't need to be the best at everything. You just need to stay honest, stay kind, stay present, and keep showing up. Let's breathe in, out. Say it with me. I let go of comparison. I embrace my timing. I am not too late. I am just getting started. Who am I, really? Identity in the spotlight. When you grow up in front of a screen, your identity can start to feel like a performance. From a young age, Gen Z was asked to decide, who are you? What do you stand for? What's your brand? What's your aesthetic? What's your label? And for many of you, you answered before you even had the chance to explore, because you had to be something. Online, fast, clear, clickable. But here's the quiet truth. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to outgrow old labels. You are allowed to not know yet. Gen Z is the most expressive generation in history. You celebrate gender fluidity. You normalize mental health struggles. You turn pain into poetry. You let the world see you in all your rawness and rebellion, and that takes strength. But sometimes that spotlight burns. Sometimes the pressure to be unique becomes another cage. Sometimes you try to be so different, you forget to be real. Let me say this with love. You don't need to stand out. You just need to be true. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be authentic. You don't need to be everything. You just need to be you. Even if you're still figuring that out, let's pause and breathe. Say this with me. I don't have to know exactly who I am. I am allowed to evolve. I am allowed to experiment. And I am still worthy, even in my uncertainty. Identity isn't a brand. It's a living, breathing thing. Some days you feel bold, some days quiet, some days confident, some days unsure. That's okay. Being human is not a fixed role. It's a flowing experience. There was a 19-year-old I met recently. She said, I feel like I have to explain myself all the time. My gender, my style, my choices, my silence. I asked her, what if you didn't owe anyone an explanation? She cried, not because she was sad, but because no one had ever told her that before. You don't need to explain your existence. You don't need to post your journey in real time. You don't need to prove your identity. You are allowed to just be. And the people who are meant to see you will see you clearly, even in your quiet seasons. Say this with me. I do not exist to perform. I exist to live. I give myself permission to change. And I honor who I am, even when no one else understands. Gen Z is not confused. You are complex, and that's a good thing. You're not lost. You're in motion. You're not too much. Grr. Layered, and that's what makes your generation so powerful. You hold space for diversity. You hold space for duality. You hold space for voices that were once ignored. You are not here to fit in. You are here to reshape the room. Let that be your legacy, not perfection, not performance, but presence. The kind that says, I am me, fully, freely, and forever changing. Breathe in and out. Repeat after me. I don't shrink to be understood. I expand to be honest. I am not finished, but I am already whole. Mental health, the loud silence within you. Smile in selfies. You share funny memes. You laugh on video calls, but inside, sometimes, you're quietly falling apart. Gen Z is the most mentally aware generation, but also one of the most emotionally overwhelmed. You know the words? Anxiety, depression, burnout, trauma. But sometimes, naming them doesn't make them easier to carry. Sometimes you wake up with a heavy chest. No reason. No warning. Just a silent weight you can't explain. Sometimes you cancel plans, not because you don't care, but because your soul is tired. And sometimes you keep showing up anyway. And that, my friend, is courage. Let's pause right here, just for a breath. Breathe in, hand out. Now repeat after me. I am not broken. I am holding a lot, and I am still here. That makes me brave. You grew up in a world that was always watching, but rarely listening. A world that measured success in how productive you were, not how peaceful you felt. You learned how to post happy moments, even when you were hurting. You learned how to be fine, even when you were crying in your room between Zoom calls. You learned to help others heal while hiding your own pain behind a smile. But now, you're learning something new. You're learning that honesty is healing. That feeling your feelings is not weak, it's wise. That slowing down is not quitting. It's choosing to survive with softness. 1. Gen Z listener once told me, I feel guilty for being sad because other people have it worse. But pain isn't a competition. There is no trophy for suffering quietly. You're allowed to struggle, even when others are too. You're allowed to need support, even when you look strong. Asterisk, you're allowed to be a helper and still ask for help. Let me say this as clearly as I can. You are not your mental health diagnosis. You are not a burden. You are not your worst moment. You are a human being doing your best in a very loud, very fast, very confusing world, and that matters. Repeat after me. I don't need to be perfect to be loved. I don't need to be strong. Every second, I am healing. And I am worthy of rest, support, and softness. There's strength in going to therapy. There's strength in journaling your thoughts. There's strength in taking breaks. There's strength in setting boundaries. There's even strength in doing nothing when everything feels too much. Because sometimes rest is the bravest thing you can do. You are not alone in this. There are thousands, millions just like you, scrolling quietly, struggling silently, still holding on, and the more you speak, the more others feel safe to speak to. That's how the healing grows. Say this with me now. I am not too much. I am not too sensitive. I feel deeply, and that is my strength. I deserve to take care of my mind the same way I care for my goals. You are not just surviving. You are rewriting the rules. You are breaking the silence. You are reminding the world. Strong looks different now. Sometimes strength looks like saying, I'm not okay, but I'm still trying. And that is everything. The race to make it and the beauty of slow growth. You open your phone, and there it is again. Someone your age just bought a house. Someone younger just launched $1 million brand. Someone else just went viral. got engaged, landed their dream job, and wrote a book, all before 25. And you? You're just trying to get out of bed without feeling overwhelmed. You see their success and think, I'm so behind. What's wrong with me? Why am I not there yet? But let me tell you something important. You are not behind. You are just on a different timeline. Gen Z is growing up in the era of speed, fast news, fast content, fast fame, fast pressure. But here's what no one tells you. Growth isn't always fast. Real success isn't always loud. And your value isn't measured by your pace. Let's take a breath, in, out, now. Say this with me. I don't chase their timeline. I honor my own rhythm. My path is valid, even if it's slower. You see? The myth of overnight success makes us believe that if we're not extraordinary by 22, we've already failed. But most success stories are built in silence. They're built in bedrooms, at midnight, in long walks where new ideas are born, in mistakes that never made it online, in years of effort that nobody clapped for. Slow growth doesn't mean no growth. It means real roots are being planted, deep and steady, and roots don't rush. There was a 24-year-old man I spoke to recently. He said, "Everyone I know is doing something great. I feel like I'm stuck." I asked him, "Are you learning anything? Right now, are you showing up for your small goals? Are you listening to your body when it tells you to slow down?" He said yes to all three, so I told him, then you're not stuck. You're in preparation. And preparation is progress. You don't need to go viral to be valuable. You don't need a business card to have purpose. You don't need a breakthrough. To begin, you are already becoming something powerful, even if no one sees it yet. Even if you don't fully see it yet. Repeat after me. I don't need to rush to matter. I grow at my own pace. I trust the timing of my life. Think of nature. A tree doesn't bloom in one day. A mountain isn't shaped in a week. The stars took billions of years to burn bright, and no one rushed them. You are no less beautiful. Just because you're still becoming, so when you see someone online succeeding fast, don't shrink. Don't doubt. Don't panic. Instead, whisper to yourself, I'm building something too. Slowly, quietly, honestly, and that's enough. Because it is. Take one last breath with me here. Breathe in. And out. Say it with me now. I release the pressure. I release the timeline. I trust my journey. And I am becoming beautifully, slowly. Truly, the quiet courage of choosing peace, there's a kind of bravery that no one claps for. No spotlight, no applause, no post. It's the kind of courage that happens quietly, deep inside you and Gen Z. You live in that space. You are strong not because you yell the loudest, but because you whisper the truth to yourself when it matters most. You are brave not because you're perfect, but because you're honest about your pain. You are powerful not because you have all the answers, but because you keep asking the right questions. This generation is not driven by appearance. You are driven by authenticity. You don't want to win the race. You want to understand why we're all running. You don't want to just impress. You want to express. You want to connect. You want to feel. And that is a strength the world has forgotten. You don't perform your joy anymore. You protect it. You don't prove your worth every day. You remember it. You don't need to. Be on all the time you need to breathe and be. Let's pause for a moment. Just one breath. For you. For everything you've survived. For everything you're still holding God in. Out. Now say this with me. I do not exist to entertain. I exist to feel, to grow, to live. Peace is my power. And I protect it with love. There was a young woman, 20, who told me, sometimes I feel guilty. For not doing more, I asked her, what did you do today? She said, I took a shower. I journaled, I made tea, and stretched. I stayed off social media. I answered one email I'd been avoiding. And I said, that's not doing nothing. That's rebuilding your energy. That's choosing peace over noise. Choosing peace in a performance-based world is not laziness. It is rebellion. It is healing. It is your new superpower. You don't always need a productivity tracker. Sometimes, all you need is a moment of stillness and the voice inside that says, I'm okay. I'm growing. I'm allowed to move at my own pace. Repeat after me. I don't chase constant achievement. I choose meaningful moments. I don't force myself to be busy. I honor the beauty of rest. You may not know this yet, but your generation is already changing the world, not by building taller buildings, but by building deeper relationships, not by being louder, but by being truer, not by being everything, but by being real, and real is enough. So as we close this chapter of Gen Z, let me leave you with this. You are the bold hearts in a noisy world, but your strength isn't in how much you speak. It's in how deeply you listen to others, to the world, and most of all, to yourself. Take one last breath with me here. Breathe in. Hold it. Let it go. Now repeat after me. I do not rush. I do not pretend. I grow slowly. I grow honestly. I grow with love. You are Gen Z. You are human. You are healing. And your voice still matters. Let's walk into the next chapter where the future is already watching. But this time, we walk with intention. Gen Alpha, the future we're building, now they were born after 2013. They didn't grow up with smartphones. They were born into them. They never had to log on. They've never known a world without touchscreens, voice assistants, or online school. They are the AI native generation. The children of apps, cloud storage, hey digital everything. They are Gen Alpha. And they are already watching us. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. They are learning from what we do, not what we say. If you're a parent, a teacher, a sibling, or simply a human walking through the same world, you're shaping Gen Alpha right now, with your tone, with your habits, with your distractions, with your hope. They are small mirrors, reflecting the world they're given. They can open a tablet before they can tie a shoe. They can skip ads before they learn to read. They know how to pause a video, but not always how to pause their thoughts. They are growing up fast, but their hearts still need the same things: attention, connection, love, safety, stillness. Let's pause here. Breathe in. Okay, now say this with me. They are not just watching our screens, they're watching our souls. What we say in silence. They learn in full. We cannot protect Gen Alpha from everything, but we can guide them toward something better. We can teach them that boredom is not failure. It's a seed of imagination. We can show them that kindness is not weakness. It's courage with soft hands. We can model that presence is more powerful than 1,000 clicks. Because if we want them to grow up differently, we have to live differently. Let me tell you a story. A little boy, age 6, was sitting with his mother at breakfast. She was scrolling on her phone, reading messages, answering emails. He looked up and whispered, "Mommy, can your eyes come back?" To me, she froze, put the phone down, and held his face in her hands. That moment didn't go viral, but it changed everything. Gen Alpha doesn't need perfect role models. They need present ones, not ones who teach perfection, but who model real love, real attention, real apologies, real rest. They're not just learning how to use technology. They're learning how to be human in a world ruled by it. And we're their first teachers. Asterisk, repeat after me. I teach not just with words, but with how I treat myself, how I handle stress, how I hold joy, How I talk to the people I love. Gen Alpha is curious. They ask why, more than any generation before, not just about science, but about emotions, boundaries, fairness, respect, and that's not annoying. That's awareness being born. We must not shut it down. We must nurture it. If they see us criticize our bodies, they'll learn to hide theirs. If they see us drown in screens, they'll stop looking up too. If they hear us yelling every time we're frustrated, they'll learn that volume equals power. But if they see us slow down, if they hear us breathe before we speak, if they watch us make space for joy and peace and failure and softness, they'll learn something more valuable than any app can teach. Say this with me. I am not raising robots. I am nurturing hearts, and the world I show them will shape the way they show up in the world. The attention crisis and the treasure of boredom we used to worry about children watching too much TV now. We worry that their minds are never still. Swipe, tap, skip. Scroll. Content changes every 5 seconds. Images jump. Sounds burst. And before they even understand what they saw, a new video is already playing. This is the world Gen Alpha is growing up in. They don't wait for cartoons on Saturday mornings. They don't need to rewind. They don't even need to think about what to watch next. The algorithm decides for them. And while some of this is wonderful, much of it is quietly dangerous. Because in a world that never pauses, imagination slowly dies. You see, imagination needs silence. Creativity needs stillness and wonder. Wonder is born in boredom. When there's nothing to do, the mind begins to explore. But if every dull moment is filled with flashing screens, every pause is instantly interrupted. When do their thoughts get to breathe? Let's pause now and breathe for them, and for ourselves. In, out. Say this with me. Boredom is not a failure. It's a door, and behind it, life's wonder. Some Gen Alpha kids will never know what it feels like to lay on the grass and make up stories from the clouds, to build a fort out of pillows, to draw a spaceship out of cardboard and believe it's real, to pretend, invent, and imagine for no other reason than because they can. Unless we show them how. We can't turn off the whole world, but we can create small pockets of presence. We can say, let's just sit here and do nothing together. Let's draw without rules. Let's make a game out of silence. And slowly, the space that feels empty will fill with color again. A child doesn't need more screens. They need more chances to create without fear, to be messy, to be silly, to be bored and discover that their boredom is a gift. There was a mother who told me, every time my son says I'm bored, I panic. I try to entertain him, but then one day she didn't. She just said, that's okay, and walked away. 10 minutes later, she found him building an entire city out of socks and plastic bottles, and he said, look what I made. Imagination is not dead, it's just crowded. It's buried beneath too many choices. It's too many flashing lights. But if we can quiet the noise, it comes back every time. Repeat after me. I protect their wonder. I welcome boredom. I create space, not just activities. And I believe that imagination is still alive. Gen Alpha has all the tools, but they need us to guide their hands, slow down their days, to widen their world, to remind them. You don't need a screen to feel something magical. Sometimes, magic is right inside you, waiting to be seen. Take one final breath here. In, out. Say this softly. I don't rush to fill the silence. I honor it. Because in that silence, they grow. And so do I. The emotional mirror, what they learn from how we live. Children don't just copy words. They copy energy. The tone you use. The way you breathe when you're tired. The way your shoulders drop when you're disappointed. They feel it all, even when you don't say a thing. Because kids, don't listen with just their ears. They watch with their hearts. Gen Alpha may speak in emojis, but they feel in full sentences. They may laugh at short videos, but they cry from real things, just like we do, and every day. They are watching how we handle life. They are asking us, without words, how do you treat yourself when you make a mistake? Do you get angry when things are slow? Do you love yourself even when no one's clapping? They are learning what it means to be human by how we live our lives in front of them. You see, kids don't need perfect adults. They need present ones, adults who show emotion, adults who apologize, adults who slow down long enough to ask, "How are you? Really?" They don't need a role model who never struggles. They need one who struggles honestly, who falls and gets back up with grace. Let's pause here, breathe in and out. Say this softly: I am not perfect, but I am present. And that is what they'll remember. One Gen Alpha child will one day say, "I remember how my dad hugged me when I cried. I remember how my mom said sorry after yelling. I remember how my teacher looked me in the eye and said, 'You matter.'" They won't remember every lesson, but they'll remember how they felt in your presence. That's the mirror, and it's the legacy we leave behind without even realizing. Repeat after me. I raise with presence, not pressure. I lead with love, not fear. I guide not with perfection, but with honesty, patience, and care. There was a single father I once met. He told me, "I don't have a lot of money. I can't give my son everything, but I never let him forget he's loved." And that child, he didn't grow up bitter. He grew up safe, because safety doesn't come from wealth. It comes from being seen, heard, and held. So if you're guiding Gen Alpha in any way, as a parent, a coach, a neighbor, or even just someone they look up to, know this: you don't have to do it all. You just have to show up with intention, even if you're tired, even if you're still healing, even if you're learning as you go. They're not asking for your perfection. They're asking for your presence. Let's breathe together. In, out. Say this with me: I am enough to lead with love. I don't need to know it all. I lead best by being real, and my presence is powerful. Their potential, our responsibility. What if the most powerful thing you ever build is not a business or a brand or a house? What if it's a child who grows up feeling safe in their own skin? A child who learns they don't have to be loud to be strong, or fast to be worthy, or perfect to be loved. What if your greatest legacy is not a trophy on a shelf, but a quiet voice in the heart of someone younger that says, "I am enough, because someone showed me how to believe it"? Gen Alpha has potential. So much of it. But potential means nothing without someone to water it. They are not empty vessels. They are watching gardens, and we are the gardeners. We don't force them to grow. We create the right conditions and let them rise in their own rhythm. They may grow up with robots, but they still need humans. Humans who look them in the eye, who say, "I hear you. I'm proud of you. It's okay to be unsure." Because in a world of machines, human love becomes the rarest technology of all. You don't need a parenting book to get this right. You just need a heart that's willing to pause, a mind that's willing to unlearn, and a soul that's willing to show up, even when it's tired, especially then, because the way we live is the blueprint they inherit, and you, my friend, are already shaping the next chapter of humanity, one moment at a time. Let's breathe this in deeply and let it land. Breathe in, hold, exhale slowly. Now say this with me: they are not mine to control. They are mine to care for. And the way I live will help them learn how to live too. Gen Alpha doesn't need perfect adults. They need brave ones, ones who admit when they're wrong, ones who cry and still keep going, ones who don't pretend to know it all, but still love deeply, fiercely, and patiently. So as we close this chapter, remember this: you don't need to teach them everything. Just teach them how to come back to themselves when the world gets loud. Teach them how to rest, how to listen, how to imagine, how to love without fear, how to forgive quickly, how to hold space for others, how to speak with kindness and live with meaning. That is enough. That is everything. Take one final breath for this chapter, and one soft smile. If you can now say it with me: I walk with love, I teach with presence, and I leave behind a future where softness becomes strength, and children grow up safe to be themselves. Gen Alpha is not just the next generation. They are the future we are shaping with every word, every choice, every choice. Let's give them something beautiful to grow into. What connects us all with? Walk through time together, from cassette tapes to cloud storage, from handwritten letters to video calls, from quiet dinners to glowing screens, from a world of waiting to a world of instant everything. But as different as each generation feels, there's something that connects us all, something that lives deeper than dates and devices: the desire to be seen, to be safe, to be remembered, to be loved. You could be Gen X, tired but wise. You could be Millennial, burned out but still dreaming. You could be Gen Z, bold but tender. Or Gen Alpha, just beginning to understand this world. But you all carry the same question in your heart: do I matter? And the answer? Yes, you always did. You still do. Let's take a breath for all the versions of us: the child who needed kindness, the teenager who hid their feelings, the adult who smiles through exhaustion, the parent who's trying to get it right. We are not that different, you and I, no matter the year we were born, because we all carry memories of pain, and we all carry dreams of something better. You see, generations are not walls, they are bridges. If we listen, we learn. If we open, we understand. And if we speak gently, not to win, but to connect, we begin to heal something much bigger than ourselves. Let me tell you a story. A Gen X father once told his Gen Z daughter, "When I was your age, I wasn't allowed to cry." She replied, "When I'm your age, I hope I've cried enough to be free." 2 generations. One heart trying to be understood. One heart learning to stay open. That's the power of time. It doesn't separate us. It invites us to grow together. Repeat after me. I am not just part of a generation. I am part of a human story. And my part matters. What if we stopped blaming the next generation and started learning from them? What if we stopped judging the older generation and started honoring their pain? What if we stopped saying "back in my day" and started asking, "What's it like in yours?" What would happen if curiosity replaced comparison? We might just remember that we all want the same things: peace, purpose, love, and the feeling that we belong. No matter the year, no matter the name, no matter the generation. So here we are, across time, across culture, across screens. And yet, in this very moment, you and I are connected, not by age, but by something deeper, by the desire to grow, to understand, to become together. Let's single quotes as take one final breath. In, out. Now say this with me, gently. I am part of something bigger. I am here to connect, not compare. I honor the stories before me. I protect the hearts after me, and I walk with love for every generation. Before we close this chapter, let me leave you with one question, a quiet one, a powerful one. What generation will come next after Gen Alpha? And how will they be different? Will they speak even less, but feel even more? Will they be raised by technology or by wisdom? Will they forget who we were, or will they remember how we made them feel? We don't know their name yet. We don't know their traits. We don't know their style, their tools, or their timelines, but we do know this: they're already watching. And they're coming with questions we haven't asked yet. So maybe the better question is, what kind of world will we leave them? And what kind of stories will they tell about us? Let's build a future they don't have to recover from. Let's be the generation that leaves behind not just tools, but truth. Not just comfort, but courage. Not just knowledge, but kindness. Because the next generation is coming, and they'll be shaped by everything we do from this moment on. Let's make it count. Thank you for listening. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for walking with me word by word, because this wasn't just a podcast. This was a bridge, built with stories, held by your presence, care, and carried by a voice that still believes in hope. And that voice is yours.